afternoon, Dr. L. Teddy. How are you today, sir?
Do we know each other? Have we met before, ma'am?
Oh, we're gonna do that. Oh,
Hi.
you know me well, sir. You know
Oh,
me
have
very
we
well.
met? I'm just asking for a friend.
Hi, everybody in the chat. How you guys doing? We have people in the chat waiting on us. We was a little
Oh,
late.
that's you, ma'am,
It
not
was
me.
my fault. It was 100% my fault. Absolutely my fault this time. I take full
I
responsibility.
got off my live. I sent the people over here. I said, y'all come over. I got to say follow and subscribe and like and
Yes, follow, subscribe, and like. Okay.
listen, that's foreign for me. I'm not used to that, but yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
that is the goal. The goal is to get us where we need to be. Well, I was trying to get there by the end of the summer. I don't know if we're gonna get there, but we are taking baby steps, but we are baby stepping it on up. Okay. I see a new name in the chat already. Dookie Hana Bankhead. Hey girl.
Come on, Dukiana. Come on,
Okay.
Duke.
Okay. Hey Abby, Lock Queen, New Jones, and Vovo to Love. Okay. So we are here today to kind of talk to you guys about what's going on. In education. One of the things that we said we were going to do was we were going to find out what Mr. Cardona had going on. We said we would find out what the Department of Education was working on and sort of bring that back to you guys. I know that was a conversation we had on our last show.
Mhm.
So we did. I don't know if y'all want to know what we found out.
Let me get some sugar in my system
I don't
now.
know if y'all want to know what we found out, but we
Before
did
I have
what we said we
whole
were going to
sugar
do.
spike.
You want to start with that, doctor, or
Mhm.
you want to?
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna start with that. Okay, so as
yeah.
always, we have an article here. I'm gonna just read you guys a little bit of the article, and then I'm gonna let the doctor unleash, let go, and let have. This is from Politico. Sorry, I said political. Politico. .com. Cardona pulls back on grant aimed at addressing discrimination, bowing to GOP pressure. I'm gonna read you guys a little bit of the background, and then I'm gonna let Dr. El Teddy break it down for you guys. The Education Department announced on Friday that, and the date on this is July 21st, so this is recent. The Education Department announced on Friday that it will not give preference to applicants for a federal grant competition to pursue plans that teach about systemic racism. Okay, that was a lot, I know. Softening the agency's position on an initial set of criteria that drew intense Republican opposition. While the agency had sought to nudge school districts into crafting more culturally sensitive classroom instruction in American history and civics education, the department has now hedged. This program, however, has not, does not, and will not dictate or recommend specific curriculum be introduced or taught in classrooms. Sorry, Secretary Cardona said of the grant initiative in a blog published on Friday. Those decisions are and will continue to be made at the local level. Well, we know what's going on at the local level. I'm gonna read this last part, and then I'm gonna give you the floor. Cardona added, like individual priorities in any grant competition, applicants are not required to address these priorities and earn no additional points and gain no competitive advantage in the grant competition for addressing these priorities. Still, the agency says it is particularly interested in grant applications that incorporate racially, ethnic, culturally, and linguistically diverse perspectives into teaching and learning. Y'all, that's a lot of
Can you
words.
read the paragraph? There's a paragraph I think before that where they talked about them receiving a lot of comments underneath it, and that influenced this decision. I think it's a paragraph or two deep.
It's the paragraph after that. I'll read that.
Okay.
Cardona's announcement comes as Republicans across the country, including Mitch McConnell, have attacked the agency's proposed priorities for the American History and Civics Education program. The initial set of criteria for the grant program prompted more than 35,000 public comments complaining about the agency's emphasis on teaching children about systemic racism and for including references to the New York Times Magazine's 1619 Project. That's the one you wanted? Okay. I'm going to be quiet now and I'm going to let you have the floor. Please make sure that you have had an intake of sugar before you start speaking, sir.
Now let me understand this, Mr. Cardona. Your sole reason for being in office, the entirety of your job as Secretary of the Department of Education in these yet to be United States of America, is to ensure that education, real and true education, is happening not only across the fruited plains, but for every child born in these yet to be United States. That no matter where they are born, no matter their socioeconomic background, no matter their racial makeup, no matter of their family's fiscal and fiduciary, placement in life, your job is to ensure that everyone has access to education, and not just any education, but sound education, one that is rooted in pedagogy, one that, incorporates all of the principles of education foundationally and everything throughout. And what you're telling me, sir, is that instead of, when you have a grant specifically written in the area of history and civics and social sciences, what you want to do is you want to say, I'm going to leave it to local states and to states and local school districts to determine what is and is not sound education in these yet to be United States of America. Mind you, you got states that are teaching kids that the world is only 6,000 years old and they should, learn the creation story instead of learning evolution or anything like that. And now you also have already the history of this country and teaching history. Let's not forget what they did to Native Americans and the indigenous people of this country, of this land, and how they rewrote their history. So now you're leaving it up to the states to decide and determine what is and is not going to be history. And you're just going to give money out everywhere to anybody, no matter what they give out. So you are rewarding. Now you're going to start to reward states that have said, we're not going to allow any teaching of real American history. We got states that have outlawed now saying anything wayward or anything negative about the Ku Klux Klan, because the Ku Klux Klan went and lobbied their state government and told their state government, Texas, that you have to enact laws that don't allow school districts to talk negatively about our organization, because we're not a negative organization. You also are leaving it up to states and local governments to determine that it's okay to say that African slaves came over here voluntarily to seek work because they needed the white man to save them. That's what you're saying it's okay to teach. That is where you want to put money that we are giving to the federal government. The taxes that we pay and a whole large sum of, let's be clear about this. Defense and education take up a whole lot of money. The lion's share of budget goes to defense and education. And you want us to sit here and be okay with you supposedly representing a Democratic administration and you allowing comment. You are reduced to having your administration's, determinations on what gets done in education to be based on comments in the, excuse my French, fucking comment sections, down to the goddamn social media, because that's what education is relegated to. Education is now relegated to whether or not you get good comments in the comment section. Mind you, Twitter And social media is is gorged with all types of white supremacists and all types of conspiracy theorists. Those are the people who do more commenting than anybody else. So it makes sense that if you put something out there that they don't agree with, that they're going to all come out of hiding like cockroaches and litter your social media posts with all of their, insidious comments. And that's how you make sound judgment. That's how you base whether or not to give monies for education to certain states, not based on pedagogy, not based on science, not based on research. You decide I'm going to kowtow and step and fetch to commenters in social media. But you want me to take you credibly as the highest ranking education official across these yet to be United States of America. We could have left Betsy DeVos in here for this.
Now I don't know about going that far.
What I mean, nothing has changed.
I won't say nothing has changed. I won't say nothing.
But when you're kowtowing and when you are allowing these people to dictate what education is, it's a slippery slope. You've gone down the slippery slope. You've given them what they wanted. And now that you've given them what they wanted, they're going to play this game every time. And you're not going to be able to get anything. And anytime you do try to put your foot down or draw a line in the sand, they're going to call you out on it. Nope, can't do that no more. Nope, too late. I don't even understand. I don't understand. And this goes to now these states are going to harden with regard to critical race theory, harden with regard to diversity being taught in school, harden with regard to cultural sensitivity, if with regard to schools. It's not going to stop. And we got the Secretary of the Department of Education just saying, okay, well, we just gonna let that. This is not education. There was no way you could have told me a month ago that we would be reading an article like this. I would have been like, nope, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I believe everything. I've put nothing past these people. But I would have been like, no, I don't believe that. So now school teachers unions, and a whole bunch of people in education have no legs to stand on with regard to the fight about teaching real history. We have no legs to stand on now because the federal government has said, well, we're going to cut your legs from underneath you. They bow to what these people want. And so now state governments and state departments of education and school boards that are not here for teaching any parts of racial sensitivity, real history, what white people in America really did to black people, are going to have no parts of it. And you're going to give them money to put that out. And I'm sorry, I can keep going on. Go ahead, really, because I feel myself going down the rabbit hole.
I'm the yin to his yang. This is why this works. I get, and what's funny is that I'm normally the pessimist amongst my friends, but with El Teddy, I become the optimist. I don't know. I don't know if I like that role, but the reason why I guess I feel like, I'm listen. Let me be clear. I get it, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and it is very disheartening and very frustrating. But I go back to the beginning of this whole situation. We didn't want him. We didn't want him.
Now that's true.
We didn't want him.
Right.
So it's not like, oh my gosh, this is who I wanted and he's disappointing me. No, I didn't expect a whole lot from him. I just didn't.
But I didn't
for a variety of reasons.
Easily.
Now, I'm not going to put all of this on him because at the end of the day, I put a lot of this on, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I just put a lot of this on the Democratic Party and their willingness to just always be the ones that give in, give up, don't fight, don't push back. The fact that, listen, a comment section is just that. Let's take it for let's take it for YouTube for a second. Let's just take YouTube for a second. This is a very small window, but let's just take it for a second. People leave comments all the time under our videos. Sometimes they like what we're doing, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have very specific criticism and they have very specific suggestions. If I moved every time I got a negative comment or I went left, every time somebody said, well, you should do this or you shouldn't do that or you should review this show or you should say it like this. Oh, no, you didn't do this. I have no direction for what I'm doing and I have no vision. If your original thought process was, I'm going to put this grant up here because I think this is what's needed, this is the criteria, yes, there are going to be people that are going to push back. Yes, there are going to be people that are going to have a problem with it. But you, of all places, the Department of freaking Education should be saying, but this is education. This is the reality. This is what happened. This is the real. Deal with it. Deal with it. You want me to tell you something else that's going to piss you off? You ready? Don't look at me like that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the New York Post is reporting, and I know it's the New York Post, but the New York Post is reporting Biden's school reopening guidelines include link to group promoting critical race theory. A handbook with guidance for reopening schools prepared by the Biden administration included a hyperlink to the radical group called the Abolitionist Teaching Network that advocates for teachers to disrupt whiteness and other forms of oppression. The report is from Fox News, so, outlines the controversial positions of the group promoted by the Department of Education, including doing away with all punitive or disciplinary practices that spirit murder Black, brown, and indigenous children in classrooms. The Abolitionist Teaching Network is a list of demands on this website, including free anti-racist therapy for white education. I'm sorry, that's not funny. Free. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out as an administrator, how do you go to the teacher and say, we're putting you on a performance plan, and part of the criteria is that you have to attend anti-racist therapy. I'm sorry. Anti-racist therapy for white educators and support staff. If you don't recognize that I'm sorry. Co-founder Bettina Love has stated, if you don't recognize that white supremacy is in everything we do, then we have a problem, adding, I want us to be feared. So, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think as I would love to be that administrator that writes that performance plan. Please, listen, as an administrator, I have put teachers on performance plans before. I would love to write a performance plan that includes you now have to attend anti-racist support group. And I'm running the support group. No, actually, I'm going to get you to come run the support group. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. That actually brought a tear to my eyes. I'm sorry. So, y'all know that, listen, Fox News was the one that reported it. So, y'all already know how they feel about it. Can you imagine? Listen, I ain't mad at Biden for them slipping that in the back on the back page. I ain't mad at them for slipping that on the page.
Listen, here's where we're going with this. Here is where we're going with this, okay? You're going to have what slipped under the radar last administration. You know what slipped under the radar the last administration? When the president dictated to the Center for Disease Control what they could and could not say was going to harm us medically.
Right.
They did that.
Right.
They bullied scientists and doctors into putting out certain propaganda and narratives that went against science, that went against what they knew. And if you have administrations past that could do that and put people's lives and health in danger, physical lives and health in danger, Why not? Why do we think it's not going to happen with regard to education? Because now we're having educators being dictated to what is and is not real education. And this is what happens when politicians don't stay in their lanes. When you got people in political realms who should stay in the political sphere and allow the scientists to be scientists, allow the educators to be educators, and allow singers to be singers. Otherwise, we end up with Ashcroft singing "Let the Eagle Soar" and stuff like that because we got people switching lanes that they should not switch a lane. Remember that whole song Ashcroft did where he was coming out of office or whatever? Let the eagle soar, whatever. This is not unprecedented, but we expect this from the other side. We expect the white supremacist party, the GOP, to be about authoritarianism and to be about the business of dictating any and every facet of your life and what is real and what is fake. But we don't expect an administration that we voted for that's not supposed to be doing this to allow this to happen. And this is where at some point somebody has to get into the ear of Biden, who probably his wife is an educator. Wait a minute, I ain't even went down that road yet. Let's go to the fact that of the point that your freaking wife, Dr. Jill Biden, is an educator. And if any other president should not let this fly on their watch, it's this one. You always tout, my wife's an educator, my wife's a teacher, my wife is in the classroom, my wife's an educator, my wife's a teacher, my wife is in the classroom. And now you have this fuckery going on. I'm sorry I'm using this language, y'all, but I'm sorry. I can't put it any other way. Your wife is an educator. She not in bed with you at night saying, what are y'all doing? She not in bed at night saying, you see what your Secretary of Education doing over here? Because that's not sound education. But y'all just going to let this come out here. If anything, I would have thought that they would have had much more control of the education part of this because your wife is an educator. But that's why I say you might as well have let Betsy DeVos stay there. Well, a mess.
Well, are we ready to talk about reopening?
I guess.
Oh. All right. So this comes from CNN.com, and this is from earlier this week. Pediatrician group says all kids should wear masks in schools, but some states are blocking such mandates. As students return to school in the coming weeks, some will be masked and some won't. With different state laws around the schools, with what different state laws around schools can require. As some schools enforcing masks and others not. The ever-changing rules have left some parents, teachers, and students confused. Listen, we have been confused from the beginning of this whole situation. Let's be clear. And a lot of it comes. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I am feverishly looking for. Remember how last summer I gave y'all an update on
looking for that list.
50 states. I found a little something, but I didn't find anything as comprehensive and as in-depth as giving me the state by state. So I'm looking for that. As soon as I get it, you'll hear me. You'll see me with my glass of juice or water, and I will give you the state by state breakdown of mask mandates in schools. But I've been looking for it for the last couple of days. I just haven't found one that I like yet. When I do find it, trust me, we'll be all over those mask mandates at schools around the country. And I will lose my voice.
Yes. I know that most of my friends, and again, I'm sure it exists, but most of my friends who are in education, their schools are full throttle. They're going back. I know in my district, the last I heard was all the schools are opening regular. But they will have a virtual high school, a virtual elementary school, and a virtual middle school. But it will be totally separate. So I won't be responsible for any kids that are staying home. They will be have to be enrolled in that high school um until their parents decide to let them come back or whatever, however that's going to work out. Now that was the last thing I heard, but that was also before this Delta variant. I don't know if anything is going to change under the Delta variant. I think all schools are going to, this is just my opinion, I think they're going to continue with whatever plan they put in place. Right now, for most schools, it's kind of late. I mean, a lot of schools are planning to go, are going to be back within the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
My school district being one of the last ones to be out, so we'll be one of the last ones to go back. But a friend of mine who's a AP, his teachers come back next week, and then the students come back the week after that. So I think everybody has their eye on what's going on with the Delta variant, but I don't see any
The
school
dangerous part
changing.
is you could have another 2019-2020 school year where you have education interrupted in the middle of
Yeah,
the school year after we're
I think
back.
that's what it's going to end up being.
That's
I
what's
think
going
we'll,
to happen. It's going to be, that's
yeah,
very dangerous. That's
it
even
is.
more dangerous than last school year was, when you knew pretty much it was going to be out the whole school year. It's
Right.
going to be that, but when you have that,
And and
um,
I see the same thing. And I hate to say it, but I anticipate pretty much the same thing, that we're going to start in the building, and then we're going to go back to. But I'm gonna tell you what I think. I think we're going to go back to what we had last year, where teachers have to still come in the building, but students can choose to either come or stay home. That is what I think. I don't know if we're going to get that full shutdown like we did before. We might, but I just don't know if we are.
here's what I think needs to happen. Here's what really needs to happen. Here's what Cardona and his people down to the United States Department of Education should be doing. You know what they could have done this summer? They could have had powers that be and people much smarter than maybe us. I don't know how much smarter, because clearly you see them from the last article. But anyway, people that might or may not
The
be smart,
bar's not that high.
that that could have come together, had some kind of consortium where you brought in people from all across the country, from various levels, elementary all the way to post-secondary. Okay, come together, administrators, classroom teachers, and maybe even a student or two and some parents, and they sit down and have some type of consortium where they can truly come up with where we need to go, a blueprint for education going forward. Because let's be clear, we're not going to be free from COVID and the variants or whatever for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to say forever, but it's going to be some time before we truly get some normalcy back to us. And so what they should have done is that we had this year, we had this dead year of 20. We can't allow that to happen. Education says you can't allow a whole year of no teaching to happen. But since it happened, it was unprecedented. We're going to set up and come up with a system. We're not going to force states to do it, but at least you have a blueprint or you have a model that you could use that would work for a situation such as what we're going to have, where you could have to have some type of social distance. You would have to have students not necessarily fully in the classroom, and come up with something that would have students and teachers be safe, but at the same time still have good, sound education taking place. And I don't know that anybody has done that. I haven't even heard of states doing that on the state level. They're still trying to have it either what it was or nothing at all. And they have to come up with something. You have to come up with something new, because this is new to us. This whole COVID thing and social distancing and school, we weren't prepared for that. So now we have to adjust from here on out, because it's COVID now. Who's to say once we get over COVID, a couple of years later, something else might not come that has the same thing. So that's why you need to have something in place that says, if that happens, here's the plan. Because I don't think we're ever going to go back to what it was, and we're
Yeah.
fooling ourselves thinking that, oh, we're just going to go back. We're just fooling ourselves.
I think we're fooling ourselves into thinking it's going to be as easy as schools open, come show up. And I definitely, as long as there is no meeting of the minds. Thank you. Listen, China White. I mean, not. I'm sorry, not China White. Crispies, who we know is an educator out on the West Coast. She just posted in the chat: Arkansas, Utah, Arizona, Iowa, Texas, South Carolina, no mandate mask for schools, or no mask mandate, excuse me, for schools. So again, and I'm sure there are more. I'm pretty certain Texas and Florida is on that list. Where they're not mandating that the kids have to wear masks, or even the teachers have to wear masks. Um, and again, there's no mandate for any vaccines either, which I foresee in the future there will be, but we don't have that right now. Not on the under the K through 12 level. Now I know a lot of colleges are requiring it. I have friends who have kids in school. We were just talking about that, and they are requiring it. There was a court case. It went to the state Supreme Court, and I was trying to find an article for you guys, and I wasn't able to find it. So I'll have it next time because I'm going to find it. I want to say it was Tennessee, but do not quote me on the state. But on the state level, the Supreme Court upheld that the state college, because remember, private schools can do it. The state schools are the ones that are going to run into some issues. But this state Supreme Court did uphold that on the college level, they had a right to mandate the vaccine for students that are going to be attending. And I know, like I said, I have friends who have kids going to school in the fall, and it is mandated that they have to take the vaccine. It's a part of their package their entrance package. And like me and El Teddy was saying before we went live, you have to be vaccinated in a lot of other things before you go to college. I know I had to bring my medical record. Right. I mean, yeah, K through 12 as well.
And then you have to update it before you go to college. Before you go to college, you got to go to your doctor and get the little card.
Absolutely.
And turn that in. And when they look at that card, they're looking at the dates of your last booster shot, whatever, to make sure that you're updated. That's for college. And so I dare a parent to talk about, oh, why my child got to get vaccinated. Your child already had to be vaccinated. And the thing about it is, a lot of the vaccinations that are already require booster shots anyway. So with all of these, why I got to keep getting a booster shot? We already had vaccinations where we had to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like that's what we're going to be. Like I said this months ago. As far as teachers, that's going to probably have to go through the union. But I mean, in states where there is no union, that is what it is. But in states with a union, it's going to probably become a collective bargaining. But the reality is, it's going to probably be a requirement. Just like at health workers, they're making it a requirement at a lot of hospitals and things like that. It's going to be a requirement at some point. China White said, I feel bad for teachers with school-age children. Yes, I do too. I'm not one of them, but I have colleagues, and that was an ongoing struggle. I had colleagues last year that had to bring their kids to school with them on certain days because their kids' school schedule was whatever. And so, again, that is going to be an ongoing challenge as we move into the new school year and what that looks like state by state, city by city, county by county. And we've been saying that from the beginning because these education mandates are not on a federal level. Just like Bilo said, I spoke to an educator friend yesterday who said they're going back early to make up for the deficit from 2020. So that happened. So the federal government gave the states money, which again trickled down to the districts, and each district had a window to figure out what they were going to do with that money. Like it had to be to help the kids that missed something, right? And so some schools added a week, some schools intensified summer school, some schools are going to add afternoon classes during the school year, like that. And so that's probably what with your friend, that money is being used to have teachers come back early. I know some school districts, they extended the end of the year, which is dumb because nobody's doing anything at the end of the year. That's never a good idea. But anyway, and then again, some people added to their summer school. And so it is that's probably what your friend is talking about. And again, that is something that, because I know for us, we got a survey from our union giving us 3 options of what we wanted the recommendation to be to do with the money, you know. Jason says we are going to acknowledge, excuse me, we're going to acknowledge most people don't know the first five ingredients of the candy, drink, or whatever they are putting in their bodies. Armchair scientists.
Well,
Yeah,
that's going on since the beginning of the vaccine coming along, which is the most. But you know, I've been screaming
yeah,
about that for the long. I've been screaming about that for a long time, which I never understood. It's just asinine for me when you got parents out here. My child don't need a vaccine or whatever, but your child had to already get vaccine. I mean, man, you don't even know all of the vaccines that they have that they put in your child when you go down there to the health department or wherever you go to get that shot and booster shot, but now all of a sudden you want to tell us everything that you found on YouTube on somebody's video about what the vaccine does. Get out of here. It let me tell you, this is going, like you said, I agree really big. It is going to become a collective bargaining situation, but it's still going to be a state by state situation. And
yeah.
fear, I fear that you're about to have politics um influencing people's lives. And I mean on a full, like what we had during the last administration, where people are dying because politicians are playing politics. Because we got certain states right now that are wide open in the schools, wide open in the streets, and wide open everywhere. And this and the new Delta variant, and not only is the Delta variant out there, you got the Lambda variant that's coming from
Yep,
South
coming
America.
right behind it. Coming
That's
right behind
right,
it.
South America. And the Lambda variant, quiet as it's kept, has already killed more people globally than any other variant, because that's the one that's wreaking havoc down in South America. And a quarter of all COVID deaths have come from South America. A quarter. So that variant, which is coming right behind the Delta variant, is doing things as well. And we got people wide open. We got states wide open. And as you have children going to school, we always talk about this. When schools open up, it doesn't just affect teachers and students. There are so many industries and so many other people, even just within the school site. You got clerical, you got custodial, you have the administration, you got, you know, the cafeteria staff, you got all type, you got vendors that come into the school for a whole slew of other things. You got people that use school sites like the auditorium and things for civic things, or some churches have churches
I was
on
gonna
Sunday
say, I was gonna say my
auditorium,
auditorium, a church
and
rents out our auditorium.
or people will rent it out and stuff like that. So, and then you're talking about all of the businesses that surround the schools, which become stakeholders. They have an influx of business because of, you know, the money that they get from schools. Education permeates any community. A community can be built around a school and a school site. So my point is, if you're telling me that there's going to be no institutional control with regard to the necessity of vaccines and or masks, you're going to have another explosion. You're going to have another, because that's, I'm telling you, that's how this started. There's a couple things that were perfect storms that helped the COVID get out of control. Remember, it blew up and we weren't aware really around January, February, and then we shut down in March, right?
March
People were coming
15th.
off,
Yeah.
people were coming off of Christmas break. So you had people going back to school, you know what I'm saying? Well, now we're all back on top of each other. That happened in January. So now you got stuff just being spread all around. Then come February, you know what happened in February that people point to, a lot of scientists point to? You have Mardi Gras happen in February. And who comes to Mardi Gras? Everybody across the world and everybody across the fruit plains.
Even before that, though, another big event
The
that
Super
was
Bowl,
like, not no Chinese New Year.
Chinese New Year, absolutely. Absolutely.
Chinese New Year, which takes place in late January, early February. I'm not sure the exact date, but that was one of the events as well. That
I'll give you another on a smaller scale, but it still was a big event. You had Kojic had one of his big, not the Grand Convocation, but it had one of his biggest conventions that it has in late February. And guess what? Over half of the bishops, over half of them died. We're talking about upwards of 40 or 50 bishops in Kojic died. They lost hundreds of people. You know what I'm saying? And you
Right.
got this, and you had a lot of events, like a lot of events happen in that January, February
Yeah,
time for
absolutely.
organizations. I know you were telling me about your church and stuff that they,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so you have these things where people come together, and I'm mentioning schools specifically. It causes like super spreader events, and now you're telling me we just gonna go back wide open
Well,
and
look
we'll,
at what we get ready to do for the next 2 weeks, the freaking Olympics,
yeah.
where they already have an outbreak of COVID. It is already
Now,
an outbreak.
they did say that they were banning. They're no longer going to have the crowd. Mind you, they had already sold tickets, but they're no longer
Right.
going to have
But
crowds.
even now, just in Olympic Village, they have, as
Hmm.
of not today, because today they have another. It's a whole nother article I just read about the Czech team and how two or three of their people have already pulled out because they tested positive, because it was on their plane. There was an outbreak on the plane, and over a certain amount
Think
of
about
people from the
opening
plane
ceremony.
have tested positive.
No, but really, think about our opening ceremonies for Olympics. You got all those thousands and thousands of athletes on top of each other. How you gonna facilitate that? Come on now. And see, we people
And
are
then right behind that, we're going back to school. Right
right.
behind the Olympics,
We're going back
school
to
reopening.
with
And then you know what
no
else is
mask.
happening? You know what else is happening? And this is something that affects you and me specifically. Um, NFL. They've
Hmm.
said that they are opening up the stadiums.
Wow,
We have baseball
wow,
right now that is at full capacity. Like,
wow.
did you see the NBA finals? Full
Hmm.
capacity. Did you see those crowds?
Wide open. Wow, wide open. Wide open. And so what's going to happen is things are going to spike. But here's the dangerous part. You're going to have governors and governments that are trying to prove a point and are going to refuse to shut it back down because, oh, we don't want to hurt the economy again at the behest of human lives. And it's dangerous. And it's dangerous because the difference between the Delta variants and some of them other one was the hospitals are talking about seeing a lot more children and teenagers and young 20 somethings in the hospitals from the Delta variants. Where the other one, they were like, oh, if you're young enough, you should be okay. Even if you catch it, it won't be a problem. The Delta variant say, oh, you thought that was it? Mother Nature said, oh, you thought you figured it out. Well,
Listen, I had a doctor's appointment on Monday. It was virtual, but I had a doctor's appointment not this Monday, but last Tuesday or whatever. And that was a conversation my doctor had with me was, listen, even with the vaccine, with this Delta variant, there is still a serious concern. There's still a serious concern. She said, now the vaccine absolutely helps, but there's still very serious concern even with the vaccine. So, you know, as someone who is going to be dealing with this, that's just my prediction. My prediction is that we're going to start the school year. They're going to attempt to start the school year. I say by Christmas, we're going to be doing some sort of remote situation. It may not even take that long.
at this point, you as a parent of students, or even if you work in the education in or around the education field, you have to take the onus on yourself. My job has set us back a long time ago. However, I go and I'm fully vaccinated. I didn't get the Pfizer, I got the Moderna, which is looking like, even though at first they said the Pfizer was the one you wanted the most, now it's looking like the Moderna is the one that you want.
Well, they're telling people that had the Johnson and Johnson that they need to go get a booster from either Moderna or Pfizer.
Right, right, right. But my point is,
So you
I have
definitely don't want that.
I have yet to stop taking my mask, to take my mask
Me
off.
too. I still wear my
And
mask.
it wasn't just because of COVID. I noticed I ain't getting not nary cold or flu or anything after after that. After that, this past flu cold season, I always get a cold flu or something that just break me down. I ain't get nothing. I was good. And
Mhm.
I attribute it to me being more safe than cautious with regard to wearing a mask, washing my hands, sanitizer, whatever, and not being around dirty behind people. And so, the reason I'm bringing that up is and since the politicians, the school officials, the administrations are not going to do it, you have to take control of the narrative and protect your own self and your own family. So, if you have children and students that are in school, go out there and say, listen, I don't care what you do, have on this good mask every time you shoot. Baby, I will go to my child's school the first day. Let me talk to his teachers. Hey, dear one. Hey, boo boo. Hey, sweetheart. I know it's not required, but I am asking you as a parent. The moment you see my child without a mask on, call me immediately. Don't wait. Don't act. Nope. Call me because my child knows that I told them don't be around here without a mask. Period. Unless you eating, and you shouldn't be eating by your around a whole bunch of people. I mean, I'm just these are things that you need to be able to do for yourself and need to protect your child and protect yourselves because as we can see, the people in positions of power are not here to protect us. They do not care. They do not care.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. I don't know. Last but not least, and there's really not a whole lot to say about this. We talked about this earlier in the school year, going back to I guess it would be around April, I guess, El Teddy, where a lot of the states, pretty much all of the states, asked for an exemption for state testing for this school year,
Mhm.
and they were all denied. They were told you are going to give those tests.
Mhm.
We don't care.
I
Um,
think we talked about that in March. I think it was earlier than April. I think it was
yeah, it
like
might have been earlier than that. Yeah, because they had to put in the application and then get denied.
Mhm.
And so now a whole lot of those test results are being published, and I mean, there's really no surprise that the test scores are abysmal.
Mhm.
No surprise that the test scores are abysmal. Now, the test scores are being used to justify a lot of this federal funding and enrichment programs, and like I said, extended school years and extended summer school. So that's where a lot of this money is going. So the test scores are being used to just sort of justify these decisions. But the question goes back to, what did we expect? I mean, what did we really expect to see with these test scores? Now, El Teddy said that the math scores were abysmal, the reading scores were a little bit better, but overall, I mean, well below grade level, well below where they
From
needed to
from
be.
a lot of the overall research that I saw, reading scores dropped 30 points. Math scores dropped about 50 points. Um, which is a doomsday scenario for education. That's a doomsday, you know, DEFCON 5 threat level red scenario for education because pedagogy tells you it takes one school year where the learning curve can pass you. And when you talk about standardized assessments, they're supposed to be on grade level. So when those students were um, taking those tests, if I'm in the ninth grade, that ninth grade test is, standardized for ninth grade. And if you still are, your education level is on your eighth grade level, you're not going to do well. You're not going to pass. You're not going to pass. And the scary notion is, I don't know how much remediation can happen because even on a regular school year before COVID, there's a good population of students that were not on grade level and had a hard time ever being on grade level. And so if you talk about even the kids that are on grade level now, they become deficient. The amount of remediation that is going to have to happen to put them on grade level is I mean unthinkable. So here's what I'm scared is going to happen is there is going to be the depreciation of what is grade level, and now there's going to be the watering down of the bar and the standard because I don't know that there's a way to mitigate that whole situation and get the whole entirety of K through 12 education across the country back up to where they should be. And we're talking about an education system in America that was far beneath most first and a lot of second world countries. Our education
Mhm.
system pales in comparison already to almost all of the other first world countries and many of the second world countries.
Absolutely.
And so, how do we mitigate what we're talking about here? It, It's a sad state of it. That is, it is those scores are looking like a doom, and I'm glad we had them. Now I'm kind of glad we did have them take it, so they had it in black and white, so that they could see. Yep, we something has to be done. And like I said, I don't know what you think is going to happen, really, be, but for me, I think there will be that depreciation of the standard and the lowering of the bar with regard to what is grade level, GLE grade level expectation.
So I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna probably piss some people off that don't know what goes on in education. I ain't gonna say piss you off, it's gonna probably shock you. I agree, El Teddy, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Rather than create an environment to figure out a way to bring the kids where they need to be, they will lower their standard and put and to make it look better, because it's all about optics. It's all about the optics. So rather than say, hey, we need to do some serious, intense, you know, programming for all of these kids. Okay, well, we're just gonna rewrite, quote unquote, rewrite the standards and redo
And
this.
you know,
Redo that.
and Ricky, you and I both know they do this all the time on the state
Absolutely,
before COVID. If a set of scores come out from a state and those scores don't look good, that doesn't bode well for those politicians, and they
absolutely.
lower the bar in terms of what is passing and what is not passing, and then they'll start to do an analysis of each question on that test and say, "Oh, we're going to throw out this question, or we're going to use it," and then they'll start to pick and choose what it is, and they do all kinds of stuff in data disaggregation. I listen. Part of my one of my masters is in curriculum and instruction, which deals with a lot of data disaggregation and these things. It gets really scientific, and exactly what you said. You really be, we done seen it
Yeah.
so many times.
And
So
that goes back to, and you can go back to probably when back to March of 2019, I mean 2020, when all of this stuff first went down and we first started and we first shut schools down. You can go back and I have said it repeatedly. You make sure that your kids are getting what they need, because there's no way that they're going to be able to get what they need from home, from remote learning, whatever. And we did, maybe we need to revisit that going into this school year. But I know El Teddy, we did a whole video on resources. A lot of those online resources were free or at a greatly reduced price. Places like Khan Academy and ABC Mouse, and I mean I could go on and on and on and on and on. And I told you guys, I implored you, I begged you, you
we
need
did.
to make sure that you guys are getting and putting in place for your kids, because they're not going to get it. And the other kids, you can whatever you want to input, the other kids are getting it, I promise you.
You're Their parents are going to make sure. And so I would challenge, because I'm just going to say, we talking to us the black parents. You know what I'm saying? Because our show is centered around, you know,
Children of color,
children of
LGBTQ
color,
issues.
LGBT, which a lot of times get left behind in the learning curve.
Yeah.
Don't allow that to happen to yours. Say, nope, it won't be mine. Yep, the learning curve might have passed the other people, but I'm going to find resources and programs to help remediate my child and keep it in place. Not only with regard to English and math and science and all of that stuff, but definitely now that you see that there's an attack on the true history of what happened to us here in these yet to be United States, you are going to have to be the conservator of real history within your household, because they're not, as you can see, it's not going to happen in schools. And so now you are going to be held responsible for making sure that that gets passed along to the next generation of Black people in this country, so that we don't lose our history, so that we don't have our stories done away with, like what happened to a whole lot of other cultures in this country. We're going to have to tell our stories whether or not the people want to hear it. And it starts at home. It starts with you. I know you're going to be tired. I know you're going to say, listen, I had a hard day at work. I ain't got the type of time. but you're going to have to stay on top of it. And if you don't want to stay on top of it, have some money ready to find a tutor or somebody else in place that can help you do that. You got the right kind of money, you send me an email. I might help tutor your child so you have the right kind of coin. Me and really me
Okay.
help tutor your child if you have the right kind of
Listen, I listen. I'm about to put up my shingle too because let me be clear. It's going to be needed. It is definitely going to be needed.
yeah.
So I want to acknowledge a few comments. Tiki, thank you so much. Your name is new to me, so thank you for being here. Tiki said, "I'm so glad to hear this convo. I feel like the only thing the news is covering is critical race theory. So I'm glad that you are here." Jason has been putting some nice gems in the chat. We need to fall in love with education and trades again. Black infrastructure is lackluster. We need our own. Let me be clear about what you just said. I 100% agree. Somewhere, and I remember I was teaching when it happened. I'm gonna say mid to early 2000s, mid 2000s, we started seeing that shift away from trades and strictly into college. I know in DC they started eliminating a lot of those trade type programs, and we ended up having like one trade high school in DC, and they even focused mainly on like computer stuff,
Mhm.
programming and coding, which is needed. Don't get me wrong, but let's be clear, somebody gonna always need a car fix, some hair done, HVAC system, plumbing. Listen, I had to call this plumber over here this weekend. My kitchen sink backed up. Thank God my plumber is my cousin and he showed up. But at the end of the day, we have to teach these trades, and what we also have to teach is there's no shame in that. There's no shame in it because we all need it. And let's be clear, I know hairdressers that make more money than I do. Okay,
That's right.
so we definitely have to bring those programs back, make them more readily accessible to students. It shouldn't be like, again, I know in the county where I work now, the school where I work, we have all of those programs. We have the CTE, we have cosmetology, we have nursing, we have all of that. But I think my school is the only high school in the county that has those programs. So why is that? Why is that? My county is one of the biggest counties in the state. Why do we only have one high school where the kids can learn how to cut hair? And when our kids graduate from the cosmetology program, all they got to do is pass the boards. They have their hours. They've learned. They've taken the classes. All they got to do is pass the daggone test, and they can literally start working the day after graduation.
And let's be clear, black people in terms of that realm of cosmetology and beauty and stuff like that, we spend more money in that than than probably any other.
Okay,
And
absolutely.
not just that, I know within the coalition, the Rainbow Coalition, that has been an avenue by which a lot of members of the Rainbow Coalition has been able to earn a living, to make something of themselves, and to earn quite a bit of money doing things like that. And so we definitely want to push them in all areas, but don't shun any other area. Let's celebrate all areas equally, so we know, yeah, you may not be over here working down to the CDC as a scientist down there in the hazmat suit, but you still making a good amount of money over here because you don't learn this HVAC trade, or because you don't learn how to, clean a pipe. And we're talking about real pipes, not the, metaphoric pipes. But you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff, that was my love. I could throw that in there real fast. But all of these things should be celebrated, like you said, really, because but we have to be well rounded, because, like I said, we need all of our own. We need our own black banks. We need our own black, everything. If we don't have people trained in those areas, we
And
need
we
to have.
gotta support them. Like, listen, that could be a whole nother show.
Yeah,
We
that's
gotta support them. We have to go out and we have to support them. And again, I point the finger at myself as much as anybody else. There are times where I'm very conscious, excuse me, about finding a black-owned business for a specific service. And then there are times where I go for convenience. So collectively have to, do that as well. But again, that's a rabbit hole that we can't go down today, but it is definitely valid. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to give a special shout out One of my former coworkers, I don't want to call her by name because I don't know if she want me to say her name, but she know who she is. She listens to all of our shows on iTunes, and
Hey,
she
coworker.
always sends me a text talking about how much she enjoys the show, how great the show is. So I really, really appreciate that. For anybody that is listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play, which we are on all three platforms, thank you guys. And you can always join us on YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is the Teacher Project 2.0. If you are finding us over on the podcast side of things, and vice versa, if you are listening to us on YouTube, go on over and subscribe to us over on the podcast side. I mean, I know, just for the support of it, just for the support of it. But I
Yeah,
want to thank you guys for being here. If
yeah.
you picked up, if you please make sure that you are like, commenting, subscribing. Please share with your friends,
Wait, no, I want
family.
to hold on. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. Y'all, those who don't know me know how weird that is for me to say like, share, subscribe, hit the notification
Right,
bell.
that is not something that
All
comes out of his
updates.
mouth easily. So, but
Remember,
again, I'm on a mission. I haven't been able to do all the things that I had planned to do this summer with this channel, but please know that I am working on it as far as making us more visible, getting us out there. Because, like I say every week, I think we have something good. We're sharing some great information. Tiki, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that you enjoyed the discussion, and all of our regulars, thank y'all for being here. As always, if you have any suggestions, concerns, comments, articles that you want us to look over, please make sure to email us at the teacherproject 2.0 at gmail.com. And then I'm going to be quiet and let Dr. L. Teddy take us out.
if you're new, if this is your first time coming across porch and sitting on the porch with us having this conversation, I recommend you go back and look at and listen to some of the other podcasts, or look at some of the other videos, because we've had some. I must say, I go back and listen myself because we've had some phenomenal discussions over the last year and a half or so we've been doing this. We've had some I'm telling you, some first rate phenomenal discussions that you really want to be a part of. We've had some guests on here that have come and graced us with their presence. So I would certainly say, go, if you love this discussion, go be a part of in the comment section of some of those other discussions, so that you can get more of the story. If you have topics that you want us, we always say, if you have things that you want us to talk about, topics that you'd like to see us expound on, send us an email. We will certainly gladly go research. If you have questions about education or anything surrounding education in your area, in your state, or um, nationally, send us an email, hit us on Instagram, because we have an Instagram page, in the DMs or anything. Let us know, and we certainly will go out and get the information and bring it back to you, and stuff like that. If you're an educator and you'd like to come on with us and have a conversation with us, please come on and have that conversation with us and so forth, because I'd love to do that. Even if you're a student that's listening and would like to come on and add to the conversation, because sometimes from our perspective, but sometimes we do encourage the perspective of a
Or a
student
parent.
or a parent in education. So please feel free to reach out to us, because we love having guests and love having people on. We thank you so much for being here with us. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you're notified whenever we have a new show up. And I think that's all I got. Oh, wow.
That's it. That's all. We will see you guys next time. Thank you so, so much. And we are out. Thank you, LaDonna. I see another newbie in the chat. Thank you, LaDonna, for being here as
Thank
well.
you.
All right. Catch y'all next time. Peace.